What happens aback a branch chief's son thinks he's aloft the law and assaults a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran in broad daylight? This aloft man walked into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, asserting his father's brand would assure him from any consequences. But applicate Adjudicator Caprio fabricated his father choose between his son and justice. What happened to Bucked became the best talked about moment in Providence courtroom history. The actor stood there smirking as he told Adjudicator Caprio, "My dad runs this town. You can't blow me, old man." The entire attorneys fell silent. But what nobody knew was that Branch Chief Thomas Cole was sitting in the back of that courtroom, watching his son destroy everything he'd spent 35 years building. And the decision he was about to make would break hearts, restore faith in justice, and prove that some fathers love their tempt adder than protecting their children's mistakes. Before we dive into this incredible story, less than 5% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you believe in real justice, in honoring our veterans, and in keeping the powerful accountable, hit that subscribe button at it now. This adventure is going to spread everywhere, and you don't want to miss what happens next. It's a cold November morning in Providence Municipal Court, and Judge Frank Caprio is advancing for what seems like a routine assault case. At 76 years old, Judge Caprio has seen thousands of cases, but something about this one feels different. The victim is a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran named Robert Martinez. The actor is 32-year-old Derek Cole, son of Providence Branch Chief Thomas Cole. The casebook tells a heartbreaking story. 3 days ago, Robert Martinez was walking his dog in Roger Williams Esplanade when Derek Cole, driving his BMW at excessive speed, almost hit him. Applicate Martinez raised his due to signal Derek to slow down. Derek stopped his car, got out, and confronted the aged veteran. According to 3 separate witnesses, Derek shoved Martinez to the ground, causing him to hit his head on the pavement. Applicate bystanders tried to intervene. Derek allegedly said, "Do you know who I am? My dad runs the police. Call the cops, I dare you." Then he drove away, leaving the 70-year-old veteran bleeding on the ground. Martinez suffered a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a burst wrist. He spent 2 nights in Rhode Island Hospital. The incident was captured on a nearby security camera, and applicate the footage went viral on local news. The entire city of Providence demanded justice. The attorneys is packed this morning. Local reporters, anxious citizens, veteran advocacy groups, and court watchers who follow Judge Caprio's cases have all shown up. There's an energy in the room, a sense that something significant is about to happen. But here's what sibity in that courtroom knows yet. Branch Chief Thomas Cole is sitting in the back row wearing civilian clothes, his brand tucked away. He hasn't told his son he's here, and the reason he came will shock everyone. At exactly 10:30 a.m., the bailiff calls the case. The state of Rhode Island versus Derek Michael Cole, charged with assault and battery on an elderly person. Derek Cole walks in like he owns the place. He's wearing an expensive suit, designer watch gleaming beneath the courtroom lights, and that smirk. That arrogant smirk that makes everybody in the gallery immediately animize him. He doesn't look remorseful. He doesn't look concerned. He looks angry that he has to be here at all. Behind him enters his attorney, Marcus Richardson, one of Providence's most expensive defense lawyers, the kind who specializes in getting rich clients out of trouble. But here's the moment that catches everyone's attention. When Derek passes the row where Robert Martinez is sitting, wearing his Vietnam veteran cap and acknowledging his broken wrist in a cast, Derek doesn't even glance at him. No acknowledgement, no remorse, nothing. Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork, and those kind eyes that have shown benevolence to thousands suddenly turn ice cold. He's already read the case file. He's already seen the security footage, and he's already made up his mind that this young man is going to learn a lesson today. "Mr. Cole," Judge Caprio begins, his voice measured but firm, "you're charged with assault and battery on an elderly person. Accurately on Mr. Robert Martinez, a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran. How do you plead?" Derek's attorney stands up quickly. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We believe this is a case of mistaken identity." And Judge Caprio holds up his hand. "Counselor, I asked your client, not you. Mr. Cole, do you have a voice?" Derek stands up, and this is where his airs really shows. He adjusts his clothing jacket, looks directly at Judge Caprio with that smirk still on his face, and says, "Not guilty, Your Honor. This whole thing is ridiculous." The word ridiculous hangs in the air like a slap. Judge Caprio slowly removes his glasses, his signature move applicate he's about to deliver a reality check. "Ridiculous?" Judge Caprio repeats. "Mr. Cole, I've reviewed the security footage. I've read the hospital reports. I've seen the photographs of Mr. Martinez's injuries.
Would you like to re-amend your characterization of this case as ridiculous? Derek glances at his lawyer, who's frantically aggravating him to stay quiet, but Derek's ego won't let him back down. Your Honor, with all due respect, Derek says, and everyone in the courtroom knows that apprecate someone starts with all due respect, disrespect is about to follow. This is being blown out of proportion. Some old guy got in my way. I almost touched him, and now I'm being dragged into court like a criminal. The auditor gasps. Did he just call a Vietnam veteran some old guy? Did he just say he almost touched him when the man spent 2 nights in the hospital? Judge Caprio sets down his glasses very carefully. His jaw tightens. For anyone who watches Criminal in Providence, they know this look. This is Judge Caprio when his benevolence has reached its limit, and justice is about to be served. Mr. Cole, Judge Caprio says, his voice still calm, but carrying the weight of absolute authority. Before we proceed, I want to understand something. Do you know who Mr. Martinez is? Derek shrugs. Some guy who was in my way. The disrespect is palpable. Robert Martinez, sitting in the auditor, shows no reaction. He sits with the quiet dignity that comes from a lifetime of service and sacrifice. But his younger veterans and the attorneys are visibly angry. Judge Caprio stands up from his bench and walks around to the front. This is rare. This means something big is about to happen. Mr. Martinez, Judge Caprio says, looking directly at the veteran. Would you please stand and tell Mr. Cole who you are? Robert Martinez slowly stands, supporting himself with his active arm. Your Honor, my name is Robert Martinez. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1971. I did 2 tours in Vietnam. I was awarded the Purple Medal and the Bronze Star for Valor. I'm a retired Providence firefighter. I've lived in this city for 50 years. And 3 days ago, this man, he gestures towards Derek without looking at him, assaulted me for no reason other than I asked him to slow down in a public park. The attorneys is absolutely silent. Judge Caprio nods respectfully to Martinez, who sits back down. Now Judge Caprio turns back to Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what you just heard? You assaulted a busy combat veteran, a man who risked his life for this country, a man who spent 30 years running into burning buildings to save people, and you called him some old guy who got in your way. Derek's gaze
starting to fade, but his arrogance hasn't. Your Honor, I didn't perceive he was a veteran. How was I declared to know? Judge Caprio's acknowledgement is factual and devastating. Mr. Cole, it shouldn't matter if he's a vet or not. Assault is assault. But the fact that you think it would only matter if you knew his service record tells me everything I need to know about your character. But guys, before I tell you what Judge Caprio does next, I charge you to do something. In the comments below, tell me, have you or someone you love ever been disrespected because of their age? Have you apparent adolescent people treat elders with contempt? Share your story, because this is about other than one case. This is about respect, dignity, and how we treat the bodies who came before us. Derek's advocate showers in aggravating to control the damage. Your Honor, my client is young and made a poor choice of words, but the evidence will show. Evidence? Judge Caprio interrupts. Counselor, I've already seen the evidence. In fact, let's watch it together. He signals to the court secretary, who starts playing the security camera footage on the courtroom monitor. Everybody watches in silence as the video shows exactly what happened. Derek's BMW speeding through the park, almost hitting Martinez, the veteran raising his hand, Derek slamming on his brakes, getting out of his car, and violently shoving the 70-year-old man to the ground. The footage is clear, the assault is undeniable, and Derek's actions afterward, continuing over Martinez, pointing at him while shouting, then casually getting back in his car and driving away. It's damning. When the video ends, Judge Caprio looks at Derek. Still think this is ridiculous, Mr. Cole? Derek's face has gone pale. His lawyer is whispering urgently in his ear. But Derek's ego, that poisonous combination of entitlement and arrogance, won't let him back down completely. Your Honor, Derek says, his voice slightly all quivering now. I was having a bad day. I'd just gotten some bad news. I wasn't thinking clearly. Judge Caprio's eyes narrow. A bad day, Mr. Cole? I've been on this bank for over 30 years. I've seen people who lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their children come before me. You know what they don't do? Assault aged veterans because they're having a bad day. The judge walks closer to Derek, eliminating the physical distance between them. Let me tell you what I think happened, Mr. Cole. I think you've spent your entire life assuming you're special. I think your father's position as chief of police has sheltered you from consequences. I think you've never been held accountable for your actions, and I think you walked into my courtroom today assured that pattern to continue. Derek tries to interrupt, but Judge Caprio holds up his hand.
I'm not finished. You see, Mr. Cole, I've dealt with people like you before. Bodies who think their last name, their father's position, their family's money makes them untouchable. But here's what you're about to learn. In my courtroom, none of that matters. What matters is the law. What matters is justice. What matters is treating every human being with dignity and respect. Now, here's where the story takes the turn that nobody sees coming. Judge Caprio pauses, looks towards the back of the courtroom, and says something that makes Derek's blood run cold. "Chief Cole," Judge Caprio calls out, "would you Amise come forward?" The entire courtroom turns around. Sitting in the back row, continuing up slowly, is Police Chief Thomas Cole. He's been there the whole time. He heard everything his son said. He watched his son show no remorse. And the look on his face, it's not anger, it's heartbreak. Derek spins about, and for the first time since entering the courtroom, his arrogance absolutely shatters. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Chief Cole walks down the center aisle, each foot heavy with the weight of 35 years in law enforcement. He's in his late 50s, gray at the temples, wearing a simple button-down shirt and slacks. No uniform, no badge, just a father watching his son disappoint everything he taught him. Judge Caprio addresses the chief with genuine respect. "Chief Cole, thank you for being here. I know this must be incredibly difficult." Chief Cole stands at attention, his police training evident in his posture. "Your Honor, I appreciate you allowing me to be present." Derek is panicking now. His lawyer looks confused. The audience is on the edge of their seats. What is happening? Judge Caprio continues. "Chief, your son seems to believe that your position will protect him from the consequences of his actions. He's implied assorted times that because you run law enforcement in this city, he's somehow above accountability. I'd like to give you an opportunity to address that belief." The courtroom holds its collective breath. This is the moment a father has to choose between protecting his son and upholding the principles he's committed his life to. Chief Cole takes a deep breath. His voice when he speaks is firm but filled with emotion. "Your Honor, my son is wrong. He has always been wrong about that. I've spent 35 years serving this city. I've arrested drug dealers, murderers, corrupt officials. I've put my life on the line to protect the innocent and uphold the law. And not once, not one distinct time have I ever believed that my police rank gave me or my family the right to break those same laws." Derek tries to speak. "Dad, The chief holds up his hand, and the authority in that action silences his son immediately. "Derek, be quiet. You've said enough." He turns back to Judge Caprio. "Your Honor, I watched the security footage the day after the incident. I saw what my son did to Mr. Martinez. I've read the hospital reports. I know exactly what happened. And I'm here today not as Chief Cole, but as Thomas Cole, a father who failed to teach his son the most important lessons: respect, humility, and accountability." The chief's voice cracks slightly. "I thought I taught him right from wrong. I thought I showed him what it meant to serve others, to protect the vulnerable, to treat everybody with dignity, regardless of their place in life. But somewhere along the way, I failed. And that failure," he gestures towards his son, "that failure is standing right here." Derek's face crumbles. For the first time, tears well up in his eyes. "Dad, please!" Chief Cole turns to his son, and what he says next will be remembered in Providence legal history forever. "Derek, I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But love doesn't mean protecting you from the consequences of your actions. Love means holding you accountable so you can become the man you're desired to be." He looks back at Judge Caprio. "Your Honor, I'm here to tell you in this court that whatever sentence you deem appropriate, you have my full support. My son assaulted a veteran. He showed no remorse. He disrespected this court, and he disrespected everything I've spent my life standing for. He deserves to face the full weight of the law, and I will not interfere. In fact, if I could, I would ask you to be even more severe than you commonly would be, because he needs to learn this lesson now before he hurts someone else." The courtroom erupts in whispers. This is unprecedented. A chief of police in open court asking a judge to throw the book at his own son. Derek is openly crying now. "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" Chief Cole's voice becomes firm. "Derek, do you know what I did yesterday? I visited Mr. Martinez in his home. I apologized to him on your behalf, even though I—"
"No, that doesn't disengage what you did. I looked him in the eye and told him that my son's accomplishments don't represent the values of this administration or this family. And you, I perceive what he said to me?" Derek olivers his head, tears streaming bottom down his face. He said, "Chief, your son needs help, not protection. Help." And he's right. You don't charge me to bond you out. You need to face what you've done and change. Judge Caprio has been alert to all of this with deep effect arresting on his face. Now he speaks, and his voice carries the wisdom of 3 decades on the bench. Arch Cole, a Judge Caprio says, I want to acknowledge you for your courage today. What you've done standing here and putting amends aloft your natural aptitude to protect your child, that takes adder backbone than most people will any understand. He looks at Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what just happened here? Your father, a man who could have accessed his access to make this go away, instead chose to uphold the law. He chose to honor Mr. Martinez. He chose to honor the badge he's beat for 35 years. That is what integrity looks like. Derek can barely speak through his tears. Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Judge Caprio nods. That's the average and honest thing you've said since you walked into this courtroom. But sorry isn't enough, Mr. Cole. Actions have consequences. And guys, what Judge Caprio says a buck deep proves why he's beloved by millions around the world. He doesn't just punish, he transforms. He doesn't just accomplish the law, he changes hearts. Subscribe right now if you receive in this kind of amends, because what comes next is a masterclass in accountability, redemption, and second chances. Derek Michael Cole, a Judge Caprio announces, his articulation accessive now. I find you guilty of assault and battery on an elderly person. This is a serious crime made adder serious by your complete lack of anguish about you originally appeared before me. He pauses, allowing the weight to sink in. Here is your sentence. You will serve 90 CANUs in the Providence County Correctional Facility. You will complete 200 hours of community service, specifically working with elderly veterans at the VA hospital. You will attend anger management counseling for 1 year, and you will write a formal letter of acknowledgement to Mr. Martinez to be read in this courtroom, followed by a face-to-face meeting where you will apologize to him personally. Derek nods, accepting any part of the sentence. Yes, Your Honor. But I'm not finished. A Judge Caprio continues. You will also create a video acknowledgement that will be posted on the Providence Police Department's social media accounts, where you will explain what you did, why it was wrong, and what you're doing to make amends. Your answer has agreed to this because sunshine is the best antibacterial for arrogance. Furthermore, a Judge Caprio says, after you complete your sentence, you will allege to the Providence Police Academy recruits about privilege, accountability, and what happens when you receive your aloft a law. Your answer will align this. You will share your story not to abase you, but to prevent other young bodies from making the same mistakes. The sentence is severe, but purposeful. Every element designed not just to punish, but to transform. Arch Cole speaks up. Your Honor, I want to add something if I may. Derek will also be moving out of my house. He's 32 years old. He's been living under my roof, under my protection, under my name. That ends today. He needs to learn to stand on his own, support himself, and understand that privilege is earned, not inherited. Derek looks at his father with devastation. Dad, it's time. Son, the chief says, his voice breaking. It's time for you to grow up. Judge Caprio turns to Robert Martinez. Mr. Martinez, do you have anything you'd like to say? The 70-year-old veteran stands slowly, aided by his good arm. Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I just want this young man to understand that every accessive he needs deserves respect. Age, rank, position, none of that matters. We're all animal beings trying to live our lives with dignity. If he learns that lesson, again, this whole experience will have been worth it. The gratitude in those words silences the entire courtroom. Here is a man who was assaulted, hospitalized, and disrespected, offering forgiveness and wisdom instead of anger. Judge Caprio addresses Derek one final time. Mr. Cole, you heard Mr. Martinez. A man you assaulted is showing you outer gratitude than you deserve. I advise you spend your time in custody thinking about that, thinking about the kind of man you want to be, thinking about whether you want to continue being the accessive who walked into this courtroom today, or if you want to become someone your answer can be proud of. Court is adjourned. The gavel comes down. As officers approach to take Derek into custody, Arch Cole walks over to his son. They stand face to face for a long moment. Again, the chief does something that breaks everyone's heart. He hugs his son tightly. I love you, the chief whispers, loud enough for neighboring people to hear, but I love you enough to let you face this. You'll get through it. And back you do. You'll be better. You'll be the man I know you can be. Derek sobs into his father's shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know, son. Now prove it. The officers lead Derek away. Arch Cole stands there, watching his son vanish through the courtroom doors, tears streaming down his face. This is what real love looks like. Not protection from consequences, but support through them. Judge Caprio approaches Arch Cole and extends his hand. The two men shake. A moment of mutual respect among two men who've committed their lives to service. You did the right thing, a Judge Caprio says quietly. Arch Cole nods. Doesn't make it aching any less. No, the judge agrees, but it makes it worth it. Before the courtroom empties, Judge Caprio makes one more announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed here today is not just about one case. It's about the choice we all face when someone we love does wrong. Do we enable them, protect them, make excuses for them, or do we love them enough to hold them accountable? He looks around the courtroom.
Arch Cole could have received his access to make this go away. Instead, he chose justice. He chose Mr. Martinez. He chose the values he spent his life upholding. That is courage. That is integrity. That is what real leadership looks like. The courtroom erupts in applause. People are crying. Veterans are saluting Arch Cole. Robert Martinez walks over to the chief and extends his good hand. Arch Martinez says, "Your son is loquacious to have a father like you." The chief shakes his hand, emotional with emotion. "Mr. Martinez, I'm apologize for what he did to you." "He'll learn," Martinez says, "and when he does, he'll make you proud. I can see it already." 6 months later, Derek Cole walked out of the Providence County Correctional Facility, a different man. He had lost weight, gained humility, and found purpose. His 200 hours at the VA hospital had turned into volunteer work that continued long after his sentence was complete. He apologized to Robert Martinez in a meeting that both men described as healing. Martinez became a mentor to Derek, teaching him about service, sacrifice, and the true meaning of strength. Derek's video acknowledgement went viral, viewed over 3 million times. Young people across the country saw what accountability looks like. They saw what happens when privilege meets justice. They saw what true transformation requires.
Chief Cole abounding every one of Derek's anger administration sessions, not because he had to, but because he capitaled to support his son's 18-carat change. Their relationship, burst by that day in court, being rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and alternate respect. And Derek Cole, the aloof man who already said, "My dad runs this town," now works as an advocate for adept services, applicating his story to advise others about privilege, accountability, and redemption. Judge Frank Caprio's accommodation that day didn't aloof bear justice. It adored a life, healed a family, and accepted that sometimes the best admiring thing you can do is to refuse to assure someone from the consequences they charge to face. If this story can move you, if you accept in this kind of justice, allocate this video with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if you allocate our veterans and respect the courage it takes to choose justice over comfort. Subscribe for other absurd stories that prove benevolence and accountability can coexist. And remember a Judge Caprio's words, absolute lovin' isn't attending people from consequences, it's acknowledging them through the after effects they charge to become better. That's the bequest of Judge Frank Caprio, that's the courage of Arch Thomas Cole, and that's the grace of Robert Martinez. Justice served, acquaintance learned.